This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey, welcome back. My name is Nico, and this is my series on preparing to photograph the April 8th total solar eclipse that will be visible from Mexico, the United States, and Canada. To follow the advice in this series and in this video, you do have to be on the path of totality during the eclipse, and there is an interactive map in the video description to take a closer look at that path. If this is your first eclipse, I would suggest watching previous parts before watching this part, because this is definitely going to get a bit more on the advanced side of things, and I won't be repeating a lot of the essential basic information that I covered in previous parts. The topic of this part is going to be going over different options for automating your eclipse imaging with software that's dedicated for that purpose. And this means your camera is going to be connected with a USB cable to a laptop or an Android phone, and then the phone or the laptop will be sending commands to your camera for when to take the pictures and how long your shutter speed should be during those pictures based on the events in the eclipse. And the advantage of this, of complete automation, is twofold. One, it frees you up to just enjoy the eclipse visually rather than messing around with your camera settings. And two, there are many eclipse events like the diamond ring to Bailey's beads sequence and on both C2 and C3 that happen very quickly. And automation will help you get the most shots out of that to create images like this one that I did in 2017, showing the progression of Bailey's beads to diamond ring at C3. Those are some of the upsides to automation, to get all the shots you want while also being able to enjoy the eclipse. The potential downsides, though, are it adds a lot of complexity, more things to bring, more chances for things to go catastrophically wrong. As an example of the complexity, you now have a laptop. And you probably, even if it's a newer laptop, you don't want to just rely on the laptop's battery. Weird things can happen. Your laptop battery can sort of drain very quickly in heat or different situations. So you probably want a backup power solution. And I'll just throw in a quick plug for this one. This is a new product from High Point Scientific. It's the Apertura All-Night Imaging Power Supply. I've been testing it for an eventual review, but I've been very impressed in terms of how much gear this can power and for how long. It also has AC outlets built in, for something like a laptop. So it's sort of perfect for this situation. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out this battery. While I'm on the topic of things that you might need for a more complex setup that I haven't mentioned in previous videos, let me also just mention this ungainly thing next to me here. This is a plastic tub with a blackout shroud attached to it. The idea with this that's very handy for eclipse imaging of this style is you could put your laptop in this. It has little cutouts for the cords, and then I can put the shroud over myself and see what's going on the laptop without any glare. I mean, another alternative to something like this would be just a tent over you or a canopy, but this works in a pinch. Yet another thing I don't know if I've mentioned in previous ones is a lot of these Eclipse automation softwares allow for the use of a GPS receiver, a USB connected GPS receiver that you connect to your laptop. That way you get very accurate location and time data for the software to work correctly. It is optional. You can also just input those things manually, but that's a nice addition. But I will warn you, each software sort of recommends a different GPS receiver. So definitely look that up before you buy anything. So with all this added complexity, a lot more gear, there's a lot more that can go wrong, as I mentioned. So I would suggest also practicing a backup plan in case things are just really not going your way on Eclipse Day. Like, let's say your laptop breaks that day and won't turn on, you don't have a backup laptop, you could then switch to your simpler backup plan that you also practiced. And I covered simpler setups and plans in previous videos, but hopefully that'll make sense. So you have a more advanced plan. If everything is going wrong with the advanced plan on a laptop, just switch to a plan where you're just sort of taking the pictures manually with intervalometer or something like that. So I'm going to start talking about the automation software with an overview and comparison of the available software, and then show a few options in more detail with demos. I'll probably mention it many times, but if you plan to use automation software, you need to get in several practice sessions, as many as you can ahead of time, to make sure that your equipment is all working as planned. I'd suggest practicing even on cloudy and rainy days, not just sunny days, because it's well worth setting this all up inside. Just take your time, making sure all the connections are working and understanding the software that you're going to be using in and out. But of course, any sunny day like today, you want to get out and actually practice with the sun. And of course, an appropriate solar filter like this one that I made with Botter Astrosolar film. Because when you're actually practicing out with the sun, then you can practice other things like daytime polar alignment, focusing on sunspots, finding the sun, all of these things that I've covered in parts 3 and 4. Okay, so let's now get into comparing the software. And I'm going to do this based on compatibility with operating systems and cameras, because this will tell you which software you may be able to actually use. So there are two options for Windows laptops, Eclipse Orchestrator and Set and See. Eclipse Orchestrator has a free basic version and a more advanced Pro version that costs $109. Eclipse Orchestrator supports almost every Canon DSLR and many Nikon DSLRs. There is also a beta version that has more support for Canon mirrorless cameras. Set and See is another Windows option that is free, and it supports most Canon DSLR and mirrorless cameras. The newest Canon camera I saw specific mention of support for was the R7, which came out in 2022. Okay, and then for newer versions of Mac OS, like if you have an M1, M2, M3 Mac, we have this new program called CaptureEclipse, which is free. You can get it on the Mac App Store, and it supports many Canon DSLR and mirrorless bodies, up to ones that were released in just 2023, like the R8 or the R6 Mark II. I'll mention this again later, but if you want the CaptureEclipse software and you haven't already downloaded it, go download it right now from the App Store, because it's not going to be available starting March 25th. For older versions of macOS up to Mojave, there is Solar Eclipse Maestro, which is free. But the creator of the software, Xavier, does suggest making a donation if you use his software. And so I did that. And a big note on this one, this software isn't compatible with newer versions of macOS, starting with macOS Catalina, which was released in 2019. So you do need either an older Intel Mac, that's what I'll be using, or be able to virtualize Mojave in order to run this. Now, if you can run it, if you can get it running, it does support quite a few camera models, including Canon and Nikon DSLRs, Sony DSLRs, and some mirrorless bodies, many Fujifilm and Olympus digital cameras, and even SBIG CCD cameras. So a lot more options with Solar Eclipse Maestro. Okay, and then finally, we have EclipseDroid for Android phones. This one is $299 and in the Google Play Store, and works with several Canon and Nikon DSLRs. Now, there may be other software out there that could work for this, but these are the projects that I've been able to verify are still under active development. And by that, it means you can, automate the solar eclipse, including the 2024 April eclipse coming up right now, and that you can actually use your location and time to trigger the camera for the different eclipse events accurately. So there's other kinds of software you might be able to use to control cameras, but they wouldn't do that necessarily. For the rest of this video, I'll demo the software that I've been able to personally try out. All these softwares work somewhat similarly in they run through a script that is timed to the eclipse events, C1, C2, C3, all these standard eclipse events, and then they communicate with your camera, again, through a cable to trigger the different captures associated with those events, like Bailey's beads, diamond rings, earth shine, outer corona, inner corona. All these different things require various shutter speeds. I'm in my office now to try to demo as much of this Eclipse automation software as possible. I've gathered 3 different laptops and my old Android phone, and we'll see how much of this software we can get working with my particular cameras. Before I jump into the demos, I want to tell you just a little bit about this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. So let's say you go to all this effort of getting the automation software working, traveling hundreds of miles, getting the weather gods to bless you with clear skies, and you take the perfect shot of the eclipse. What are you going to do with it? Well, I'd encourage you to host it on your own personal website. Because unlike social media, a website is something that you have complete control over. And Squarespace is the all-in-one website builder that makes it super easy to design and maintain your website thanks to their super flexible but professional templates, their drag and drop interface, and many included tools and features like a spam-free contact form and a store integration. Because if you want to, sell prints of your work, Squarespace will make that super easy. So if you're ready to give it a try, head over to squarespace.com/Nebula Photos for a free trial. And after the trial, you can get 10% off your first purchase of a domain or hosting with code Nebula Photos. Okay, let's start with CaptureEclipse. As I mentioned in the overview part, this app will be not available starting March 25th, so about a week from when this video is coming out. And the reason for that is so that, as they say, customers waiting until the last minute and expecting technical support, that kind of thing. So I understand it. They don't want to have people, panicking last minute trying to, get things working. Because you really need to practice several times with the software before the eclipse. Okay, anyways, this one is on the Mac App Store. So you click here and then you click View in the Mac App Store. And I've already downloaded it, but it is free. So it will usually just say install right here. And then you click Open. Okay, and then the first time you open it, it's going to ask you which eclipse you're observing. So for us, it's going to be the 2024 USA total. And then if you just click that button up there, it will put in an example site. Of course, when you're actually doing this, you're going to want to actually put in the latitude and longitude and altitude for the site that you are actually observing from. But for now, we can just use this example information here. And this is the correct eclipse, 2024, April 8th, and then the T stands for total. So go ahead and click Save. Okay, and then it says, did not find a camera. Make sure your camera is connected and try again. So let me just turn on my camera here and I'll go ahead and click try again. And there we go. And it found it. So if you have a Canon camera connected, this should work. Maybe not the bleeding edge newest one, but I think this software supports anything up to the R8, R6 II generation. So pretty new. And then goes back into the DSLRs as well. So the one I have connected right now is the Canon EOS RA. So I'll go ahead and click select camera and you give it a second here because it's establishing the connection with the camera so it can take control of it. Oh, and this is actually a good time to say, before you connect your camera to any of these software, you should format the memory card because it works a lot faster if the memory card is free of any pictures. And that's true of any of these tethered laptop software solutions. So if you remember on Eclipse Day, make sure you start with a fresh memory card. Okay, and then we're going to put in some camera options here. So I'm going to be using a tracking mount, and then I'll just go down to the next one. I'm going to be shooting at f7. And then it says solar filter type, and it uses these abbreviations. So it's a little confusing, but if you read the instructions manual for this software, it explains what these means. This top one is Thousand Oaks solar light material. The next one down is just ND5 as defined by Fred Espenack. The next one down is Botter solar film, B for Botter. And the last one, I can't remember. You can look it up in the instruction manual, but I'm using Botter Astro Solar Film, so I'm going to use that. And then over here, we have ISO limits. So you can have your preferred ISO, and also your maximum ISO. So I'm going to do preferred ISO of 200 and maximum ISO of 3200. But you can define these however you wish for your camera. If you sort of know your camera well, you might pick different values. Okay, and then this is interesting. There's this little thing right here about the interval for bursts, delay between priority exposures, delay for corona, and then this little test button. So go ahead and try this test button, and it gives you some instructions. It says, test how fast your camera and lens can sustain the simulated burst for the Cs. That means the contacts. The default capture for the Cs is to capture images at priority speed. This test must pass to determine the safe speed. See the help for more information. Okay, so burst duration, 6 seconds. This should be 2 times the value used in the script generator. Okay, burst interval 1 second. Let's see what our other options are here. So let's try even faster. Let's try a burst interval of 0.05. And let's do a test. Okay, so this is interesting. Some images were not captured during the test. Okay, so then you can just keep experimenting. So let's try 0.8 seconds and test. And that time, the burst test was successful. 6 burst images were captured, right? So the goal, I think, is to set this burst interval as fast as possible while getting a successful test result, right? That's going to give you the most pictures when it goes into this burst mode to capture things like Bailey's beads around second contact and third contact. Okay, and then this next dialogue is about setting the number of shots you want to take for different aspects of the eclipse. All the defaults make a lot of sense. So if you want to just leave it on the defaults, that's fine. If you do want, for instance, more shots of the partial phases because you're trying to do some kind of specific time-lapse thing, like maybe you wanted to make a time-lapse video that was very smooth, you might want to change that parameter. 5% of the, every 5% of the partial phase is going to give you plenty of shots to work with to make some kind of composite image, but it just might not be smooth enough for like a time-lapse video. So you can play around with these, and you can always, generate this first script, and then if you don't like what happens with it, you can always go back and do this again. I'm going to leave them on the defaults and click Validate Script. It validates that that's okay, which it should be since I didn't change anything. And then I'm going to click Save and Use Script. And then now we're actually done with the setup for this software. But you can see that if we go back here, we can always edit something like the site. We can always edit parameters of the camera. These are all up here in the menus. And if we want to edit the scripts, you can bring up the script generator again from Scenario. To practice this script, what we're going to do is go down here to, so you can practice from the beginning. That would be from C1. You can practice for a few minutes leading up to C2 and go that way. I'm not sure why there's a practice for C4. That would be the end. Another thing you can do is you can just use an offset. Okay, so I've changed it to right before C2. You can see 1840. It's counting down. I'm going to click Run, and let's listen here. I should have voice cues. It should be playing a cue right here.
Filters off, filters off.
Okay, and it should take control of my camera as well to take these images. So we'll see if this all works. Okay, and I'm going to stop it right there. I was paying close attention to the script versus what my camera was doing, and I can tell you that it all worked except for it didn't get off 3 diamond ring shots before it took the burst for Bailey's beads right here at C2. So what do I do? Well, I don't want my camera to like get behind on these timings. That's really what you're trying to practice here, is you don't want it to get behind on the timings, because then it can throw everything off. So I'm going to go back up here to scenario script generator, and I'm going to say diamond ring 2 shots and click save and use script. And you can see down here in my script now, there's 2 diamond ring shots, right? Then I'll go ahead and just change that offset time back to right before filters off again. Click run again. And then we're back here in the script again, and we can practice this whole thing again. Now, this is the thing that I think is most worthy of practicing many, many times to make sure it's all working exactly how you want. But it would also be worth doing a full practice run, with the partial phases, the whole totality. The whole totality, and just making sure, like how long do my batteries last? All these kinds of things that are really good to practice ahead of time. But let's try this again and see if it gets off the 2 diamond ring shots and all the Bailey's bead burst shots. So I'm counting here. So it seemed to do a little bit better that time in terms of getting all of the shots in. It still felt like it might have been a little bit behind right before the Corona shots, but then now it's seeming to like line up with the script and the shot being taken. So I think we're pretty close, but I might want to keep trying to fine tune this, just making sure this is all good. Okay, so that's what you should do to practice with this. When it comes to the actual Eclipse day, how are you going to use this? You're going to want to make sure that your site data is input correctly. Of course, it displays up here in the left-hand corner, but you can't edit it here. You have to go to Site, Menu, and click Edit. And this is where you can edit it. And if you start the program with a GPS dongle already attached to your computer, it will pull this data directly from the GPS dongle, so you don't have to input it directly. A supported one, and they give a recommendation for which one to get on the website. So you're going to make sure your site data is set correctly. Make sure that you're using the correct time and everything, and that's all working right. Then just have your camera connected, and before C1, click run, and then that's it. You just let it go, and this has stops for checking focus right before totality, or 10 minutes before totality. So you don't have to worry about even remembering to do that or stopping the script or anything like that, because it's part of it right here. Oh, one other thing I should say, the check focus reminded me, is this does have a focus camera module, but it also doesn't lock up your camera. So I found it actually easier with my RA, especially, to focus using just the camera screen, and the screen is actually on the whole time. It does, which I'm really appreciative of, because sometimes when you tether your camera to a laptop, it locks up the screen. You can't see anything. This one doesn't, so I can still focus on camera rather than using this focus camera module, which I found a little bit clunky. So that's nice. And that's about it for this one. You just want to make sure that you understand the scripting, that you practice the scripting, make sure your camera isn't getting behind. If it is, and if you have a choice of SD cards, of course, use your fastest SD card. Remember to clear your SD card, format it before you start, and that's about it. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, and now here we are with Solar Eclipse Maestro. And like I said before, this is only supported on older versions of Mac OS. So I'm on quite an old MacBook Air here, but it's still working as long as it's plugged in. And it's running OS 10 Yosemite, quite old, but it's working. And this is the newest version, actually, of Solar Eclipse Maestro running on this Mac. And it supports my Canon ESRA, which is cool. I know that because if I go here to set up hardware configuration, I can see that it's detected right there. See, it says Canon ESRA. Now, there's a lot more to this one. You can see the display is a little bit more busy, and there's a lot of options here in the menus, including lots of interesting display options with simulating Bailey's beads and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not going to go through all of that, but if you can run this software, I would encourage you to play around with all of this because it is really cool how much he's put into this. And of course, donate, like I said just a moment ago. So to get set up, the first thing is go to setup, go to hardware configuration. And if your camera is connected and turned on, make sure that it's detecting it. And you can give your camera a name to use in the script. So I'm just going to call it RA. It is a mirrorless camera. Camera date time synchronize. Okay, that's fine. Test camera. Okay, let's test camera number 1. Hit fire. Yes, it just did fire the shutter, so that worked. Okay, so our camera is connected. What do we do next? You can see here, based on this map down here, that we're not in the correct eclipse because we're in an eclipse that goes over Africa. So we need to set up everything to be correct for the April 2024 eclipse. So to do that, what I suggest is go to File, Configuration Wizard. It's going to be your first option right here. And this is where you can pick the eclipse. So you can see the one that it loads automatically for some reason is the 2006 over Africa. So I'm going to change that to 2024 total, April 8th. And you can see the whole map view changes right there. I'm also going to modify my location. Okay, and if you're not sure how to fill this out, you can use Xavier's other tool, his interactive map, and pick your location, and it'll give you all the GPS and elevation data like this. When you're happy with this, click Save Location and give it a name. This is also where if you had a GPS dongle connected, you can get it from here. So it'll pop up here, and then you click Copy Coordinates, Copy Elevation from your GPS reading. So I'm going to click Continue. And it brings me just to this next tab up here in the Configuration Wizard. It asks me my maximum exposure time, my preferred lens aperture. So I'm going to choose f7 here, preferred ISO 200, maximum ISO 3200, image quality raw, minimum spacing between exposures. I'm going to bring this down to 1 second. Name of digital camera, RA. Voice prompts, yes. Continue. Okay. And then here is where we get the number of sets for each phenomena. The uneclipsed sun with full aperture filter. 3 pictures, okay. C1 and C4, 5 pictures, okay. Partial phases, every 2% of magnitude is the default. Remember in CaptureEclipse, it was every 5%. So this is going to give us more pictures, but I'll just leave that on the default 2. Diamond rings, 2. Bailey's beads, 3. Okay, I'm going to try increasing Bailey's beads to 6. Chromosphere prominences 2 each. That's pretty standard. Solar corona, everyone stop. I am going to turn on fill. So what fill is going to do is instead of just taking 2 pictures for every type of corona phenomena, it's going to take as many of the different corona phenomena as possible within the 4 minutes. And so that's what I want. Earth, shine, and stars, 2. That's good. Okay, let's click finished. And then this is an actual text file that it saves, so you can always go in and alter it. I'll call this RA test for now. And click finished. This is a little counterintuitive. It doesn't automatically load your script, even though you just created one. So let's just click load script here, and we'll load it in. And there it is. The simulated time right now is 7 hours to sunrise, or 12 hours before the first picture, pre-C1 uneclipsed. Pretty similar to the CaptureEclipse, a little bit more information. We can test it by changing the simulated time. So I'm just going to go here to Observer, click on Simulated Second Contact, and that puts me about 40 seconds before
30 seconds
for second contact. And so we're about to get the filters off command here.
Filters off. Filters off. 10 seconds.
Okay, when you're wanting to stop the test, just go to File, Unload Script, and it'll stop it. What you should do here is, just like with the other one, compare the script to the actual photos taken on camera and make sure that it was hitting every part of the script. If not, you can go in and edit the script. You can actually go in and just manually change things around however you want. It's a little bit dangerous, but if you really feel confident that you want to just delete some lines or do something strange, you can go in and change the script. But the wizard is designed that way for a purpose, for a reason. So I probably wouldn't mess with it just willy-nilly. But if you really feel like you just want to change it a little bit for some reason, that is an option. Just go File, Open Script, and you can edit certain lines. Okay, that's it for Solar Eclipse Maestro. We'll go on to the next one. All right, next up we have Eclipse Orchestrator. I am using the free version, and part of the reason I'm using the free version is because I'm not actually planning to use this for the Eclipse, just because I have Mac options and I like Mac. But this is a perfectly good program, and I've actually downloaded the beta version here since it supports some newer Canon mirrorless cameras, and I can confirm that it is working with my RA. So I know that because if I go to Setup here and Hardware Configuration, which is probably the first thing you should do, and then I go down here to Cameras Type, and I pick Canon RA. There it is. And I'll just call this RA. Lens aperture is f7. Focal length 700 millimeters. Recycle time, let's just do 1 second. Equatorial mount. I'm not using a GPS right now, so that's all okay. And then it says you must restart the program for changes to take effect. Okay, so let's restart it. And we can see right here, current camera setting, RA, idle. Okay, so now let's see if it works. I'm going to go to Camera, Push Shutter, RA. Yes, it took a picture. So it's connected, it's working, that's good. Next, let's go to set location and time. So for set location, I'll just put something in here in Texas on the path. Okay, and at least for my version, it automatically picked the April 8th eclipse. But if in case yours didn't, you go to Setup, Choose Event, and then it's right there in the Choose Event menu. Okay, and it's using the real time right now, as you can see, March 15th. And so we're 24 days out before first contact. But we can use a simulated time on this one as well, or just jump ahead to simulated second contact. However, we're not going to do that quite yet because we haven't set up a script, right? So just like the other two programs I showed, this has a script wizard. It's under File, Script Wizard. And you just run through this. Maximum exposure time, I'm going to say up to 10 seconds. Preferred aperture f7, don't allow deviations because I'm going to be, it's a telescope with a fixed aperture. File type RAW, preferred ISO 200, minimum spacing between exposures. Seconds, use 2 to 3 if not using shutter cable. I guess we're not using a shutter cable, so I'll do 2 seconds. Voice prompts, sounds good. Okay, and a lot of things are grayed out here, I'm assuming because I don't have the Pro version, but I'll just do Diamond Ring and Corona and use the fill option like with Solar Eclipse Maestro. Click Finish. Okay, there we go. So at least got us the Diamond Ring and Corona, and I assume you could get the rest of the phenomena if you paid the $109. I think like CaptureEclipse, this one does have a blackout period about a week before the eclipse. So if you want the Pro version, get it now. But we can practice with this one, see if it works with my camera, which I think it's going to. Let's go to time and simulate second contact here.
30 seconds. 30 seconds to go.
Okay, the sound voice prompts are working. I wonder whose voice that is. It seems the same in all the programs.
10 seconds. 10 seconds to go.
Or maybe it's not, and maybe I'm just thinking it is, but okay, so it's working. Okay, and I just stopped it by changing the time from simulated second contact back to real time. But just like with the other programs, what you would do now is make sure that your camera wasn't getting backed up, that it was actually recording these shutter speeds. It was changing the shutter speeds as you'd expect, and that, you know, what you see in the script matches what you're seeing on your camera. And then just go ahead and practice with this program as much as possible. Make sure you're working out any quirks. And again, this is the free version, but if I was actually using this for the Eclipse, I think I would buy the Pro version because there seems to be a number of things that aren't available in the free version. But I can confirm that this is supporting my Canon RA, and so that's pretty cool. And it seems to also have support for older Canons and Nikons and other things like that too. Okay, next up we have Set in C, which stands for Solar Eclipse Timer and Camera Controller. And this is the newest version, 4.19.1.0. It's a fairly simple program. You first have to set the coordinates for your site. So I'll just do that here. Okay, with that set, I can see based on this 24 days out that it has pulled the April 8th eclipse. You can actually see that up here at the top. And so the next thing is we're going to connect our camera. So just go here to Camera, Connect Camera. It did find my Canon EOS RA just fine. Let's set the ISO speed to 200 Image quality we want to be raw. Okay, let's try using it. Yes, it worked. Advanced camera test. When pressing this button, 5 exposures with actual settings will be taken and stored in the camera. Let's try it. Okay, cool. That worked. Okay, what I'm understanding about this program, I think, is that you just leave, after you connect your camera, you just leave this window open. Because if I close it, it seems to disconnect the camera. So I'm just going to leave it open and then bring this window back up front here. And then open up exposure tables. Again, for some reason, it defaults to JPEG large fine, which is not what I want. I want raw. Let's set the ISO speed to 200. So here's partial phases. Take a pic every 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Let's do every 3 minutes. Near C2, Bailey's beads. Take pictures from -8 seconds to +8 seconds, -6 +6. Let's do -10 +10. And then during totality, loop from 1/1000th to 4 seconds as often as possible. Sounds good. Create exposure table. Okay, so this has an interesting idea here, which is for the partial phase, instead of knowing exactly what the proper exposure is going to be, it's just going to take one at 1/1000th, 1/500th, and 1/250th. Now, that will probably work. Let's see, can I add more here? And I can add more. That's interesting. So I could tell it, let's actually even take 4 pictures, 1/2000th, 1/1000th. Or what you probably really should do here is for the partial phase is just figure out with your particular filter and lens or your filter and telescope what this should be, and then just take pictures at the appropriate shutter speed rather than taking all these different pictures. Okay, but then once it gets to this part, this is interesting. It just has like these looping functions, so it can loop from 1/1000th up to 4 seconds, or you can even add 8 seconds. And then by default, the Bailey's beads shutter speed is 1/1000th. But I think I've always thought, really short is better for Bailey's beads. So I'd probably do something like this. I'd change all of these to 1/8000th of a second. Okay, anyways, I'm not going to do all of that right now, but you get the idea. So you can alter this exposure table. Once you've altered this exposure table to your liking, I haven't really fully done that yet, but just to show you what the next step would be, you're going to go back to this camera window, or camera form, I guess as they call it, and you can see the camera's still connected. You can go over here to Eclipse Photography, and if it was the day of, you would just click Start Eclipse Photography, and it would start taking your pictures at the appropriate time. Now it also has this test mode. What the test mode will do is just start at the top of your exposure table and run through it. I don't see an easy way to start it right at C2 like the other programs had, but you can at least do a full run through this way. So you click test, and it goes through. And the reason it's looping through these different exposure, different shutter speeds, is because that's what I left in here, right? So it's looping through here. After you've tested, just wait for it to go through the whole thing, or click abort at any time. And again, just like with any of the other programs, you want to match up what it says it's doing with what actually happened on camera and make sure that it all agrees and that it was keeping up. And this all looked good. So that's basically it for this program. It looks pretty simple, but also pretty customizable. It's a little bit, the defaults are maybe not quite as good as some of the other programs in my opinion, but it's definitely workable. Okay, and then I haven't been able to find the right cable camera combination for EclipseDroid, but I thought I'd just show a little bit of this app anyways, because you might be able to find the right cable and camera to make this work. So you can pick your location on the map. So I'm just going to do that. And then I'll click back. And it says, do you want to use this position as the new default position? I'll say yes. And then you can see it's put in there. And it tells me, you know, the eclipse is visible as a total eclipse from this location. But it's 25 days away, which we know. So, but I can click on this little checkbox here that says simulation. And then just like many of the other pieces of software, it does a countdown leading up to C2. Now, I'm not able to test this because I don't have the right cable, like I said, but you know, you'd connect your camera there and then you can edit the actions list here to take different pictures. This is under settings.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And you can see it's saying USB photo error, no USB device connected. That's because it's not working for mine, but if it was, then hopefully it would be taking pictures now. Maybe I'll try to get this working, but if I don't, you can play around with it and see if it works for you. This is, again, the EclipseDroid app. This is the $2.99 one. There is a free one on the App Store, but I'm not sure what the difference is. I'd probably just pay the $2.99 to get all the features. And try it out and see if it works for you. You're now seeing everyone who supports this channel through my Patreon campaign at patreon.com/nebulaphotos. My Patreon starts at just $1 a month, and there are a bunch of benefits. As promised, the newest benefit that's related to eclipses and finding a clear sky for the next eclipse is everyone who joins my Patreon will get 1 month of Astrospheric Pro for free leading up to the total solar eclipse in April. And this is really cool because Astrospheric Pro is the absolute best way for us astrophotographers to find clear and steady skies. It's a forecast tool designed specifically for astronomy. And with the Pro version, you get the ensemble cloud forecast on Astrospheric Pro, which is a crucial tool for getting a clear picture of upcoming clouds. The ensemble cloud forecast is composed of multiple high-quality models serving North America, and it allows us to quickly view the variance between models as well as where they agree. And when all models agree, we can then feel a lot more confident in the predictions. You know, I wish this had existed, or I knew about it at least for the 2017 eclipse, because I was a bit all over the place looking at various cloud forecasts and not knowing which to believe. Well, with the ensemble forecast, you can really get a good sense of where the models actually agree it will be clear. And as the solar eclipse approach, it will be possible to overlay the eclipse paths with Astrospheric's advanced ensemble forecast. So again, this is now free for all my Patreon members, and the instructions to get that set up are already posted on my Patreon page. I would suggest getting onto my Patreon now so you can also take advantage of the excellent community that's very supportive, and we're all really dedicated astrophotographers, and so I think you'll have a lot of fun over there. So till next time, this has been Nico Carver, Clear Skies.